The great council chamber was almost empty. Ambassador Chen Wei walked slowly across the polished floor, his footsteps echoing in the vast space. He was 70 years old now, and he had spent 40 of those years in this building. 40 years of talking, arguing, and pleading with aliens who never really listened. He reached the center podium and placed a small crystal on the surface. The crystal glowed softly, containing all the official documents humanity needed to submit. Chen did not make a speech. He did not shout or cry or shake his fist at the ceiling. He simply bowed once, turned around, and walked away. Council Prime Vithara watched him go. She was a being made of living crystal, tall and beautiful, with light flowing through her transparent body. She barely glanced at the crystal Chen had left behind. Another human complaint, she thought. Another request for something they did not deserve. What did the humans want this time? Asked Ambassador Kell, a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many eyes. Vethera made a sound like wind chimes, which was her species' version of a laugh. They are leaving the council, all of them. Every human world, every human station, every human ship. Kell's eyes blinked in sequence. Leaving? But why? Does it matter? Vethera turned away from the podium. They were always too sensitive, too emotional. They never understood that the council operates on wisdom earned over millions of years. They have been members for only 200 years. They are children among elders. What Vithera did not say, what she did not even think about, was that humanity had tried to warn the council about many things. 50 years ago, human scientists had presented data about the Korvax border. They said the space there was becoming unstable. They said it could tear apart if left alone. The council's own scientists had looked at the data for 3 days and then dismissed it. The probability was too low, they said. Humans worried too much. 30 years ago, humans had proposed a new system for responding to disasters. When planets flooded or burned or froze, when refugees needed help, the humans had written detailed plans for how to save lives quickly. The council had thanked them politely and filed the plans away. The council already had systems, slow systems, but systems that had worked for centuries. 20 years ago, human military officers had offered to share their tactical training programs. The council species did not fight wars anymore, they said. War was primitive. The humans had nodded and said nothing more, but they kept training anyway, kept running simulations for dangers that might never come. And just 6 months ago, humanity had asked for a security exemption in the outer reaches. Human colonies there were being raided by pirates. People were dying. Humanity wanted permission to establish defense platforms and patrol routes. The council had voted. 847 voted no. 1 voted yes. The human ambassador Chen remembered that vote. He remembered Ambassador Krell of the Quilarian Empire, a bird-like creature with golden feathers laughing out loud. Defense platforms? Krell had said, his voice dripping with amusement. The humans want to play soldier? Perhaps we should give them toy ships and wooden swords. The chamber had filled with laughter. Even species that liked humans had smiled. It was just so typical, so human to overreact to a few pirates. Chen had stood up that day. He had looked around at all the species, all the beings who thought they were so wise, and he had made a decision. He did not announce it. He simply sent a coded message back to Earth. 1 word. Enough. The human government had debated for 3 days. Every colony world voted. Every orbital habitat, every research station, every ship captain. The vote was unanimous. They would leave. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in quiet dignity. They would gather their people, their belongings, and their knowledge, and they would go somewhere else. Now, 3 months later, it was happening. Human freighters were loading supplies from trade stations. Human diplomats were closing embassies and thanking their staff. Human families were packing up homes they had lived in for generations. And human warships, those ships the council had always thought were too aggressive, too militaristic, were organizing into escort fleets. Admiral Sarah Ochoa stood on the bridge of the UHSF Defiant, watching the evacuation on her screens. She had been in the military for 32 years. She had watched pirate raids kill her people while the council debated whether helping was appropriate. She had bitten her tongue through 1,000 meetings where aliens treated human soldiers like violent children. Admiral, her first officer said, the last transport has cleared the Deneb station. All personnel accounted for. Good, Ochoa said. Set course for the rally point, and send the station AI the shutdown codes. Leave it clean and functional. Ma'am, we're leaving the station operational. We're not thieves, Commander. We built that station with Council permission. Now we're leaving it with Council permission. We take nothing that isn't ours. Across Council space, the pattern repeated. Humans left behind buildings that still worked, computers with all the passwords, even gardens still growing food. They left instruction manuals in 17 languages. They left thank you notes to the neighbors who had been kind, but they also left silence. Every communication channel went dark. Every trade agreement was politely terminated. Every research partnership was formally concluded. When other species tried to call human friends, they found numbers disconnected. When they sent messages, they received automatic replies. Humanity has withdrawn from Council space. Please do not attempt further contact. We wish you well. High Scholar Takren sat in his laboratory, staring at a message from his human colleague, Dr. Sarah Martinez. They had worked together for 15 years studying stellar formation. She had taught him to see patterns he had never noticed before. Her messages were always full of strange human jokes and references to old Earth movies. The final message was short. Takren, you've been a true friend. I'm sorry we have to go, but we can't stay where we're not valued. Keep looking at the stars. Maybe we'll see each other again someday. Stay safe. Takren had tried to reply, but his message bounced back. Dr. Martinez was gone. All the humans were gone. He looked around his lab. Half the equipment had been designed with human input. The analysis software he used every day had been written by human programmers. The comfortable chair he sat in had been a gift from Dr. Martinez, who had noticed his old chair hurt his back. For the first time, Takren wondered what else humans had been doing that nobody noticed. In the council chamber, Vithara finally picked up the crystal Chen had left. She accessed the data and read the formal withdrawal notice. It was perfectly polite, perfectly legal, and perfectly final. At the end was a single sentence that made her pause. Thank you for the opportunity to learn and grow alongside you. We wish the Galactic Council continued success and prosperity. May your future be bright. It did not sound angry. It did not sound hurt. It sounded like a person closing a door gently, making sure not to slam it, being careful not to disturb anyone. Vithara set the crystal down. She felt something unfamiliar, a small cold spot in her crystalline heart, but she pushed the feeling away. The Council had survived for millions of years before humanity. It would survive millions more. She was wrong, but she did not know that yet. In the darkness of space, 20,000 human ships gathered at coordinates known only to them. They formed up in perfect formations, checked their systems, and calculated their jumps. And then, as quietly as they had left, they vanished into the void. Behind them, the Council continued on, not knowing that their immune system had just departed, not knowing that the warning systems were gone, not knowing that the glue holding them together had just dissolved. They would learn, but by then it would be too late. 6 months had passed since the humans left, and Council Prime Vithara was starting to feel annoyed. Small problems kept appearing on her desk, problems that should not exist, problems that someone else had always handled before. The first report came from the Trade Ministry. Council Prime, we have a supply issue. Medical isotopes from the Kepler sector are not reaching the Andromeda hospitals. The shipping route seems to have stopped working. Vithara looked at the map. The route had worked for 70 years. Why would it stop now? Find another route, she said. We have tried, Council Prime. The alternate routes add 16 days to the journey. The isotopes decay in 14 days. We need the fast route. Then who managed the fast route before? The trade minister, a blob-like creature named Voss, made an embarrassed gurgling sound. Apparently, human freight companies. They had agreements with both sectors. They handled the transfers. Vithara felt that cold spot in her heart again. Find someone else to do it. But finding someone else was not simple. The Kepler sector and the Andromeda hospitals belonged to species that did not like each other very much. They had an old dispute about religion or territory or something that happened 3,000 years ago. They only did business through neutral third parties. The humans had been neutral, patient, reliable. Now people in Andromeda hospitals were dying because medicine arrived too late. The second problem came from the diplomatic corps. Ambassador Shen of the Zephian Confederacy and Ambassador Maktor of the Maktar worlds had gotten into a screaming match in the council chamber. They had nearly come to physical violence. Security had to separate them. What is this about? Vithara demanded. The head of security, an insect-like being named Kree, clicked nervously. Border dispute, Council Prime. The Zephians say the Maktars have been mining in their asteroid field. The Maktars say the field was never officially Zephian territory. This dispute is centuries old. Why is it exploding now? Kree's antennae drooped. Before, when tensions rose, Ambassador Chen would invite both parties to private dinners. He would talk to them separately, then together. He would find compromises. He did this work for, we estimate 60 to 70 active disputes. 60 to 70? Vithara could not believe it. How did one human manage 60 disputes? He had a team, Council Prime. 12 human diplomats working constantly. They called it relationship maintenance. We did not realize they were doing it because they made it look easy. The Zephians and Maktars went to war 3 weeks later. It was a small war, just a few destroyed ships and one bombed station. But it was the first open conflict in Council space in 200 years. High Scholar Takrin watched the news and felt sick. He had started doing research, looking into what else humans had been doing. The answer was disturbing. Humans had been involved in everything, like roots of a tree that nobody could see until the tree was cut down. He found that human universities had partnerships with 600 research institutions across Council space. Human graduate students asked strange questions that seemed silly at first, but led to unexpected discoveries. Human professors organized conferences and made sure different species talked to each other. Human translators helped species understand each other's scientific papers. Research publications across the Council were down 34%. Scientists were complaining that their work felt slower, harder, less inspired. Tikrin dug deeper. He found that human cargo ships had quietly connected 14 different economic zones. The humans did not carry the most cargo, but they were willing to go anywhere. They delivered to small colonies that big shipping companies ignored. They learned all the local customs and regulations. They remembered everyone's names. Now those small colonies were running out of supplies. The big shipping companies did not want to waste time on small deliveries. Tikrin found that human doctors had been sharing medical techniques across species lines. A human surgeon had figured out how to adapt Zephian heart procedures for Maktar anatomy. A human psychiatrist had written a guide for helping crystalline species deal with stress fractures. These guides were being used in hospitals everywhere, but nobody remembered where they came from. He found that human engineers maintained communication relays in dangerous regions that nobody else wanted to visit. Those relays were starting to fail now. Messages that used to take seconds were taking hours. He found that human security officers had quietly tracked pirate movements and shared intelligence with everyone. The pirates had feared humans because humans shared information and responded fast and used unpredictable tactics. Now the pirates were getting bolder. Raids were increasing. Takrin compiled everything into a report. It was 300 pages long. He titled it, The Invisible Species, Humanity's Contributions to Council Stability. He sent it to every senior council member. Most of them never read it. They were too busy dealing with problems. The third major crisis happened 8 months after humanity's departure. A disease outbreak hit the mining colonies in the Rigel sector. The disease was not new or particularly dangerous, but it spread fast and the miners could not work while sick. The Rigel sector produced 70% of the Council's antimatter fuel. If the mine stopped, thousands of systems would lose power. Send medical teams, Vithara ordered. We are trying, Council Prime, said Health Minister Torvin. But we don't have protocols for this scale of outbreak. We need to organize ships, supplies, personnel, quarantine procedures. How long will it take? 4 weeks, maybe 5. The mines will be completely shut down by then. Surely we have emergency procedures. Torvin looked uncomfortable. We do, Council Prime. The procedures were written by human disaster response teams. But they require equipment and training we don't have. The humans had practice. They ran drills. They had mobile hospitals that could deploy in 6 hours. So we don't have mobile hospitals? We have hospitals, Council Prime. But they are not mobile. They are buildings. By the time Council medical teams reached Rigel, 2 months had passed. 3,000 miners had died. The antimatter shortage caused rolling blackouts across 12 sectors. Factories shut down. Food storage failed. More people died. Tikrin watched the news and wanted to scream. He pulled up the human disaster response protocols from the archives. They were beautifully written, clear and detailed. with step-by-step instructions. The humans had offered to train council teams. The council had said no thank you. We have our own systems, except the council's systems took months while people died. The fourth crisis was the one that finally scared people. A junior council member named Plix, representing a species that had joined only 30 years ago, stood up during a session and asked a simple question. Council Prime, where are the humans? The chamber went quiet. The humans withdrew, Representative Plix. You know this. Yes, but where did they go? We have sent scout ships to their old colony worlds. The systems are protected by defensive platforms that send our ships away. We have tried to contact them. They don't answer. Does anyone know what happened to 4 trillion human beings? Vithara realized she did not know. Nobody knew. The humans had gathered their people and vanished. They had to be somewhere, but where? Why does it matter? Asked Ambassador Krell. The golden-feathered bird who had laughed at Chen Plix looked at Krell with surprising sharpness. Because, Ambassador, everything is falling apart. Trade is disrupted. Disputes are becoming wars. Our research is slowing. Our emergency systems don't work. And all of this started when the humans left. Maybe we should ask them to come back. They won't come back, Takren said quietly. I have tried to contact my human colleagues. Their addresses are dead. It's like they never existed. Good riddance, Krell said. They were too aggressive anyway. Too paranoid. Too right, Takren interrupted, his voice suddenly hard. They were right about the Korvax border. They were right about needing better emergency systems. They were right about the pirates. They were right about everything, and we laughed at them. Krell's feathers ruffled in anger, but he said nothing. Bethera ended the session early. She went to her private chambers and pulled up old records. She watched videos of Ambassador Chen giving presentations. She saw him warning about threats. She saw him proposing solutions. She saw the council ignoring him, dismissing him, sometimes openly mocking him. And she saw his face. He never looked angry. He looked sad, disappointed, like a teacher watching a student fail when they could have succeeded. For the first time, Vithara wondered if the council had made a terrible mistake. But she pushed the thought away. The council was eternal. The council was wise. These problems were temporary. Everything would return to normal soon. She was wrong again. But she would not realize how wrong until it was far too late. The alarm woke Vithara from her meditation. Red lights flashed across every surface of her chamber. The sound was something she had never heard before in her 300 years of life. It was the sound of a catastrophic emergency. She rushed to the command center. Every screen showed the same thing, a massive tear in space at the Korvax border. The tear was growing, consuming everything around it. Ship stations, even light itself, was being pulled into the void. How many systems affected? Vithara asked, her voice shaking. 3 systems completely gone, Council Prime, said the science officer, a methane-breathing creature in a containment suit. 7 more systems in immediate danger. We estimate 14 billion beings in the evacuation zone. 14 billion? Get them out! Send every ship we have. We are trying, Council Prime, but we don't have evacuation procedures for this scale. We don't know how to organize someone must know, Vithara shouted. This is not the first disaster in Council history. Takren stepped forward. He looked like he had not slept in days. Council Prime, the humans predicted this 60 years ago. They presented detailed scans of the Korvax border and warned that the space-time fabric was degrading. They said if we didn't stabilize it, it would eventually collapse. Vithara felt cold. What did they propose? A network of stabilization fields. The cost would have been 0.03% of the annual council budget. The Council Science Committee reviewed it for 3 days and rejected it. They said the probability of catastrophic failure was too low to justify the expense. Who were the committee members? All dead now, Council Prime. That was 60 years ago. The evacuation was chaos. Council ships rushed to the danger zones, but they had no system for managing refugees. Ships arrived at planets and found no coordination, no shelter prepared, no food or water ready. Families were separated. Ships were overcrowded. Some captains refused to take more passengers because they feared their ships would fail. Takren found the human evacuation protocols buried in the archives. They were comprehensive, covering everything from ship loading procedures to psychological support for traumatized children. He transmitted them to every evacuation ship. Some captains used the protocols and saved thousands of lives. Others ignored them. saying they would not take orders from documents written by departed humans. Those ships failed. Some crashed. Some suffocated their passengers by overloading life support. Some simply abandoned people on dying worlds because the captains panicked. By the time the evacuation ended, 3.2 million beings had died. The Korvax collapse itself killed 2 million. The failed evacuation killed the rest. Bethera watched the casualty reports and felt something break inside her crystalline body. She pulled up the human warning from 60 years ago. The data was clear. The predictions were accurate. The solution was simple and cheap, and the Council had filed it away as unlikely scenario by paranoid species. 3.2 million beings died because the Council thought humans worried too much. But the crisis was not over. The Vryn horde had been watching the Council for years, waiting for weakness. The Vryn were a warrior species that lived beyond Council borders. They had never attacked before because the Council looked strong and united. Now the Council looked weak and confused. Now was the time to strike. Vryn warships hit 15 Council outposts simultaneously. They were fast, brutal, and efficient. Council defense fleets responded, but they moved slowly and used old tactics. Tactics that had worked for centuries against pirates and small raiders. Tactics that failed completely against a coordinated military force. The Vryn destroyed 8 Council fleets in the first week. They captured 4 planets and took 2 billion prisoners. They sent a message to the Council. Surrender sectors 7 through 19 or we will take them by force. We need military leadership, Vithara said at the emergency session. Who are our best strategic minds? Admiral Zex, a cephalopod creature with 12 tentacles, looked embarrassed. Council Prime, most of our military officers are ceremonial positions. We have not fought a real war in 200 years. We have battle plans, but they are outdated. Then update them. We are trying, Council Prime, but modern warfare is complex. We need tactical simulations, wargaming, strategic analysis. These are skills that take decades to develop. Tikren spoke up again. The humans had all of this. They ran combat simulations constantly. We mocked them for it, called them paranoid and aggressive. They offered to share their training programs with us. So where are these programs? Vethera demanded. The humans took them when they left, but I found something else. Tikren projected a document onto the main screen. This is a classified human military assessment from 5 years ago. The humans left it in the archives, probably deliberately. It identifies 23 existential threats to the Council and provides countermeasure strategies for each one. Every single one of these assessments was marked rejected excessive caution. The Council chamber went silent. Everyone stared at the list. Threat number 7 was the Korvax border collapse. Threat number 12 was a Vryn invasion. They knew, someone whispered. They knew everything that would happen. Krell, the golden-feathered ambassador who had laughed at Chen, stood up. His feathers looked dull now and his voice was quiet. Perhaps we should contact the humans. Ask for their help. Apologize for how we treated them. No, said Ambassador Moren, a rock-like being from a heavy-gravity world. The humans made their choice. They left us. Why would they help now? Because they are humans, Tikren said. Because despite everything we did to them, they are decent beings. Maybe they will help if we ask. Vethera thought about it. The idea of begging for help hurt her pride. But pride meant nothing when civilizations were dying. Very well. Prepare a diplomatic mission. I will lead it myself. We will go to human space and request assistance. Council Prime, said the navigation officer. We don't know where human space is. They left no forwarding address. Then we go to their last known territories and follow the trail. Ready my ship. The diplomatic convoy consisted of 5 ships carrying representatives from 20 species. They traveled to what used to be human space and found something unexpected. The old human colony worlds were protected by defense platforms that looked nothing like human technology from 200 years ago. The platforms were sleek, advanced, and powerful. A human voice came over the communication channel. Attention Council vessels. You are approaching protected territory. Please state your business. Vethera spoke carefully.
This is Council Prime Vethera.
We request diplomatic discussion with human leadership. It is urgent. There was a long pause. Then, stand by. For 3 hours, the Council ships waited. Finally, they were given coordinates to a neutral station. When they arrived, they found a structure that took Vethara's breath away. It was beautiful, elegant, and obviously human-made. but far more advanced than anything humans had possessed 200 years ago. A human woman in a simple gray uniform met them at the docking bay. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with dark skin and calm eyes. "I am Diplomatic Officer Keisha Adams. Welcome to Waypoint Station. Council Prime Vithara. The human government has agreed to meet with you. Please follow me." As they walked through the station, Vithara saw things that shocked her. Humans working alongside species she had never seen before. Some were species the Council had deemed too primitive to contact. Technology that seemed decades or even centuries ahead of Council level, and humans everywhere, calm and confident and happy. "You have advanced significantly," Vithara said carefully. Officer Adams smiled slightly. "When you're not spending half your energy trying to be heard, you have more time for growth. We made alliances with species who treated us as equals. We focused on solving problems instead of political games. Turns out we're pretty good at moving forward when we're not being held back." The words were polite, but they stung like acid. They reached a conference room. Officer Adams gestured for them to enter. "I will hear your request now. Please understand that I have full authority to negotiate on behalf of the human sphere. Whatever you ask, my answer will be final." Vethera looked at this young human woman who held the fate of the Council in her hands. She thought about Ambassador Chen, old and tired and ignored. She thought about the 3.2 million dead at Korvax. She thought about the Vryn horde burning Council worlds. And for the first time in her 300 years, Council Prime Vethera prepared to beg. Vethera sat across from Officer Adams and felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. The human woman was not trying to intimidate her. She was not being rude or cold. She was simply calm and professional, and somehow that made everything worse. "Council Prime," Adams said gently, "please tell me why you have come." Vethera explained everything. The Korvax collapse, the millions dead, the Vryn invasion, the Council's desperate military situation. As she spoke, she watched Adam's face and saw something that broke her heart. The human looked sad but not surprised. "We need help," Vethera finished. "We need human tactical expertise, your strategic planning, your disaster response systems, please, beings are dying." Adams was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human ships moved in perfect formation, graceful and purposeful. "Council Prime, do you know why we left? You felt disrespected?" "No." Adams turned back to face her. "We left because we were exhausted. For 200 years, we tried to contribute. We offered ideas, solutions, warnings. Sometimes species would listen privately and then vote against us publicly because they did not want to seem like they were siding with the junior species. Sometimes they would use our ideas and not give us credit. Sometimes they would laugh at us to our faces." Adams activated a holographic display. "Let me show you something." The display showed clips from council sessions over 2 centuries. Vethera watched herself dismissing human proposals. She watched Krell laughing at human security concerns. She watched hundreds of ambassadors treating humans like ignorant children. And she watched Ambassador Chen year after year staying patient and polite even as his ideas were mocked. "We documented everything," Adams said. "Every insult, every dismissal, every time the Council used our work without acknowledgement. We were not being sensitive. We were being systematically disrespected by a government that benefited from our labor, while treating us as inferior." "We made mistakes," Vethera said. "I made mistakes. But please, innocent beings are suffering now. They were not the ones who disrespected you." "You are right. They were not." Adams sat back down. "That is why I am going to show you something that might help you. But first I need you to understand what you are asking of us." Adams pulled up more files. "After we left, we needed to rebuild everything. Trust alliances, trade networks, security. We spent 2 years just establishing stable borders. We made contact with 47 species that the Council ignored. We offered them partnership as equals. We shared technology freely. We listened to their ideas. And we built something better than what we had in Council space." The display showed thriving human worlds, mixed species communities working together, research stations where humans and non-Council species collaborated, defense platforms protecting trade routes. Everything was peaceful and prosperous and organized. The human sphere now includes over 2,000 human worlds and 300 worlds belonging to our partner species, Adams continued. "We have mutual defense treaties. We have free trade. We have open borders. And most importantly, we have respect. Nobody here treats anyone as a junior member. Nobody laughs at safety concerns. Nobody dismisses ideas without careful consideration. Adams looked at Vithara with something like pity. You want us to come back to an organization that treated us terribly for 200 years. An organization that ignored every warning we gave. An organization that is now suffering exactly the consequences we predicted. And you want us to fix your problems while you maintain the same attitudes that created those problems. We would change, Vithara said desperately. We would listen to humans now. We would give you full voting rights, representation. We had those things before. Council Prime. They meant nothing when everyone ignored our votes and dismissed our representatives. Tikran, who had been silent until now, spoke up. Officer Adams, some of us tried to support humanity. Some of us believed in your ideas. Are we to be punished for the failures of others? Adams' expression softened when she looked at Tikran. Hi, Scholar, your messages to Dr. Martinez were always kind. Your collaborations were genuine. She spoke highly of you in her final reports. This is not about punishment. This is about protection. Protection? Vithara asked. Yes, we are protecting ourselves from making the same mistake twice. We gave the Council 200 years. We were patient, professional, and helpful. And it got us nowhere. We will not put our people through that again. So you will do nothing? You will let the Council fall? Adams was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked to a secure terminal. She entered codes and extracted a data crystal. She placed it on the table in front of Vithara. This crystal contains everything you need to stabilize the Korvax anomaly. It has defensive strategy specifically designed to counter Vryn tactics. It has evacuation protocols, medical response systems, and diplomatic frameworks for preventing future conflicts. It is free. No strings attached. No demands for recognition. We give it to you because beings are dying, and we do not want more death. Vithara reached for the crystal with shaking hands. Thank you. Thank you so much. But will you not also send advisors, trainers? Help us implement these systems? No, the word was soft but final. Why not? Adam sat back down and looked directly at Vithara. Because 2 years ago you would have rejected all of this. You would have called it paranoid human overreaction. You would have filed it away and forgotten about it. You only value our help now because you are desperate. That is not respect. That is convenience. We have learned our lesson, Vithara pleaded. Have you? Adams pulled up another display. 3 days before you left for this mission, the Council held a vote on whether to officially apologize to humanity for past treatment. The vote failed. 412 voted yes. 439 voted no. The Council could not even agree that you owed us an apology. Vithara felt her light dim. She had not known about that vote. But she was not surprised. The Council is made of thousands of species with millions of years of history, Adams continued. You have ingrained cultural attitudes about hierarchy and seniority. You believe that older civilizations are wiser. You cannot simply change that because you need something from us. And we will not subject our people to that environment again. What if I promise reform? What if Council Prime, you will be out of office in 20 years. Your successor will return to old attitudes. We have seen this pattern before. One leader promises change, then the next leader returns to tradition. We cannot build a future on promises that will be forgotten. Tikran pulled out his own datapad. Officer Adams, I brought something to share with you. Research that Dr. Martinez and I were working on before she left. I completed it alone, but the ideas were hers. I wanted to honor her contribution. Adams smiled genuinely this time. That is kind of you, High Scholar. Dr. Martinez would appreciate it. Please send me the file. I will make sure she sees it. She is well? She is very well. She runs a research institute now. 300 scientists from a dozen species. She is happy. Tikran's translator could not convey the emotion in his voice, but everyone in the room felt it. Tell her. Tell her that I miss working with her, and that I am sorry. I will tell her. Vithara stood up slowly. She felt ancient, worn down, broken. Is there anything we can say that would change your mind? Any condition we could meet? Adams thought carefully before answering. Council Prime, if you had come to us with humility and genuine change, if you had spent the last year reforming your institutions and culture, if you had come to apologize rather than to ask for help, maybe things would be different. But you did not do any of those things. You came because you need us, not because you respect us, and that is not a foundation for any relationship. Adams stood and walked them back to their ships. At the airlock, she paused. I want you to know something. Despite everything, we do not hate the Council. We do not want to see civilizations fall. That is why we are giving you the information freely. Use it well. Save your people. And maybe in a few generations, when the Council has truly changed, our descendants can meet as equals. A few generations? Vethara whispered. Yes, real change takes time. We are willing to wait. The Council delegation traveled back in silence. Vethara held the data crystal and thought about everything Adams had said. The human had been right about all of it. The Council had not changed. It had not apologized. It had only come begging when it was desperate. When they arrived home, Vethara presented the crystal to the full Council. Some members were grateful. Others were angry that humans had refused to provide direct help. A few suggested that humans were being petty and vengeful. Vethara listened to them argue and felt tired, so very tired. That night she watched the old videos again. She watched Ambassador Chen warning about Korvax. She watched him propose evacuation protocols. She watched him offer military training. And she watched the Council laugh. For the first time in her life, Council Prime Vethara understood what it meant to live with regret. 3 years after humanity's departure, the Council chamber looked empty. Once it had been filled with representatives from 800 species. Now barely 300 remained. The rest had withdrawn, seeking safety in smaller alliances or declaring independence. High Scholar Tikren stood at the central podium. Vethara had stepped down 6 months ago, broken by guilt and exhaustion. The Council had elected Tikren as the new Council Prime. He had not wanted the job, but someone had to try to save what remained. My fellow representatives, Tikren began, his voice carrying across the half-empty chamber. Today marks 3 years since humanity departed. I want to report on our progress. He pulled up displays showing various metrics. Using the information humans freely gave us, we stabilized the Korvax anomaly. It no longer grows. We evacuated the remaining population successfully. We also implemented human defensive strategies against the Vryn horde. The war continues, but we are no longer losing. There was scattered applause, but it sounded hollow. However, Tikren continued, we must acknowledge the cost. 4.1 million beings died in the Korvax collapse and subsequent evacuations. Another 2.7 million died in the Vryn War. 62 species have withdrawn from the Council. Our economy has contracted by 40%. Our research output is down by half. The chamber was silent. I have spent these 3 years studying humanity's contributions to the Council. My findings are disturbing. Humans were involved in virtually every aspect of Council operations, usually in ways we never noticed. They were the glue that held our civilization together. Without them, we are discovering how fragile our unity really was. Ambassador Krell, the golden-feathered bird who looked much older now, stood up. Council Prime, are you saying the Council was dependent on one species? That seems unlikely. Not dependent, Ambassador, enhanced. Humanity made everything work better. They smoothed over conflicts. They connected isolated groups. They asked the right questions. They prepared for worst-case scenarios. They did not do these things because they had to. They did them because they wanted to help. And we took their help while treating them as inferiors. Tikren pulled up a new display. I have one more announcement. As my first major act as Council Prime, I am establishing new protocols based on human methodologies. We will call them the Human Protocols, in honor of the species we failed to appreciate. He listed them one by one. Disaster response systems based on human mobile hospital designs, diplomatic mediation frameworks using human relationship maintenance techniques, military training programs using human tactical simulations, research collaboration methods using human interdisciplinary approaches. These protocols will be mandatory for all Council operations, Tikren said firmly. We will learn from our mistakes. We will become the organization humanity hoped we could be, even if they are no longer here to see it. Later that day, Tikren sat in his office and composed a message. He sent it on all frequencies toward human space, knowing it probably would not reach them, knowing they probably would not respond. To the human sphere, this is High Scholar Tikren, now serving as Council Prime. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I offer our sincere apology for 200 years of disrespect, dismissal, and arrogance. You were right about everything. You tried to help us and we mocked you. You warned us about dangers and we ignored you. You offered friendship, and we treated you as inferiors. We are sorry. We do not expect forgiveness. We do not ask you to return. We simply wanted you to know that we understand now. We understand what we lost. We hope you are happy in your new home. You deserved better than what we gave you." He sent the message and waited. No response came. He had not expected one. Former Council Prime Vithara lived in a small dwelling on a quiet planet far from the core worlds. She spent her days reading and writing. She had started a book titled The Species We Failed. It was a comprehensive history of humanity's time in the Council, documenting every contribution, every warning, every moment of brilliance that the Council had ignored. She would never publish it. It was too painful, too damning, but she wrote it anyway as a form of penance. One day she received a visitor. A young crystalline being, barely 50 years old, came to her door. "Council Prime Vithara, my name is Kren. I am studying history at the Academy. I wanted to ask you about humanity." Vithara let the young student in. They sat in her garden and Vithara told stories. She told about Ambassador Chen's patience. She told about human scientists who asked strange questions that led to breakthroughs. She told about human merchants who remembered everyone's names. She told about human soldiers who trained for wars they hoped would never come. "Why did they leave?" young Kren asked. "Because we made them feel unwelcome," Vithara said simply. "We thought our age made us wise. We thought their youth made them foolish. We were wrong. Do you think they will ever come back? No, and they should not. We had our chance." Meanwhile, in human space, life continued peacefully. Dr. Sarah Martinez ran her research institute, collaborating with brilliant minds from species the Council had never bothered to meet. Admiral Ochoa commanded defense fleets that kept human worlds safe without firing a shot. The presence of prepared defenses was enough to deter most threats, and Ambassador Chen, now 93 years old, lived in a comfortable apartment on Luna with a view of Earth. He spent his days reading, gardening, and occasionally mentoring young diplomats. One day, his assistant brought him a message. "Sir, this came from Council Space. It is from High Scholar to Kren. He is Council Prime now." Chen read the apology slowly. He read it 3 times. Then he sat in his chair and cried. Not from joy, but from grief. Grief for what could have been. Grief for the friendship and collaboration that should have been possible. Grief for all the wasted years. He did not send a response. What would he say? "I forgive you." That felt wrong. He did not want to forgive. He wanted to forget. Thank you? For what? For apologizing only after everything collapsed? He simply deleted the message and went back to his garden. But the message had an effect he did not expect. Other humans read copies of it. Young humans who had not experienced the Council's disrespect. Humans who wondered if maybe someday things could be different. 5 years after the departure, something unexpected happened. A young human captain named James Park was patrolling the border when he received a distress call from a Council ship. The ship had suffered engine failure and was drifting into a dangerous nebula. Park followed his orders. He brought his ship alongside the Council vessel, stabilized it, and towed it to safety. The Council crew was grateful and shocked. They had expected humans to ignore their call. "Why did you help us?" the Council captain asked. "After everything," Park shrugged. "Because you needed help. That is what we do." The Council captain, a crystalline being like Vithara, looked at this young human with wonder. "You are very kind." "Kindness has nothing to do with it," Park said. "It is just basic decency. You needed help and we could provide it. Simple." That story spread. Over the next few years, there were more encounters. Human ships helping Council vessels in distress. Human doctors treating Council patients in neutral space. Human scientists sharing research with Council researchers who approached them respectfully as equals. It was not official. The human sphere government maintained its policy of no formal contact with the Council. But individuals made their own choices, and slowly, very slowly, tiny threads of connection began to form. Tikran heard about these encounters and felt hope for the first time in years. Maybe not in his lifetime, maybe not for generations, but perhaps eventually humans and the Council could meet again, as equals, as partners, as friends. He stood in the empty Council chamber and read the words Ambassador Chen had spoken at his final address. They were engraved on a memorial plaque Tikran had installed. "We came as friends hoping to build something beautiful together. We leave as strangers hoping you will find your way." Perhaps in time, on more equal ground, our paths will cross again. Until then, be well. Tikren traced the words with his claw. We are trying to find our way, he said softly to the empty room. We are trying to become worthy of crossing paths with you again. I hope wherever you are happy. I hope you built the beautiful thing you dreamed of. And I hope someday you will give us another chance to be part of it. The chamber remained silent, but outside in the vast darkness of space, human ships continued their journeys. They protected their people. They helped those in need. They built their civilization based on the values the Council had failed to appreciate: humility, preparation, mutual respect, and genuine care for others. They had left in silence, seeking nothing but peace and dignity, and they had found both. The Council lived with regret, but humanity lived with hope. And in the end, perhaps that was the difference that mattered most. On Luna, Chen sat in his garden and watched Earth rise over the horizon. He thought about his 40 years in the Council chamber. He thought about all the frustration, all the dismissals, all the times he had bitten his tongue and stayed polite. And then he thought about the last 3 years. The peace, the respect, the joy of building something new with people who valued what humans brought to the table.